Hello there, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, you thirsty bunch of beer drinkers, whenever and wherever you're tuning in from. Thanks for pressing play and supporting a Canadian podcast. I'm Troy Birch with Great Lakes, Ontario's local brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery based in Etobicoke who brings you this here Between Two Fermenters, the podcast where craft beer and conversation collide, straight from the tanks to your ears. Now, we spend a lot of time on this show talking to brewery owners, brewers, and the folks who run breweries. But today, we're going to go in a bit of a different direction. We're going to pull back the curtain on something that every single brewery in this country thinks about but rarely talks about in depth: glassware. Today's guest is Dan Silva, co-owner and vice president of sales and procurement at Zenan Glass, Canada's largest go-to glassware and ceramics manufacturer for the beverage and food service world. If you've ever raised a perfectly branded pint at a brewery tap room or at your favorite bar or restaurant, or walked home with one hidden in your bag or jacket, there's a decent chance Zenan had something to do with it. Dan knows this world inside and out. Before landing at Zenan, he spent nearly 11 years at PepsiCo in a variety of different roles, which means he brings some serious CPG muscle to a category that a lot of craft brewers frankly underestimate. He's also the guy behind those sharp, funny drinks trivia videos you may have caught on social media, but more on that later. I love those things. Today, we're going to dig into the glassware side of this industry, how breweries big and small, massive and small, actually think about their branded glass, what goes into creating it, why it's a marketing tool, and why it matters more to your beer experience than you might think. But first, I want to tell you a story about Dan and the Zenan team, that they went from a vendor-supplier relationship with GLB into something much deeper than that. Something that happened, one of those moments of unreasonable hospitality that sticks with you. Something our team still to this day talks about. So we were celebrating our 38th anniversary in 2025. Some of us were having some beers in the tap room with customers when the crew from Zenan showed up unannounced. Dan was there. He was carrying a large box, said he had a gift for us. And in that box, 24 branded pint glasses to mark the anniversary. It was custom glass that we didn't order, we didn't make, a complete surprise, and one that was extremely appreciated. They didn't just drop off the box and offer us best wishes. No, the team actually stayed and had beers together with our team, getting to know us, the reps, the taproom staff. That moment, or as we call it at GLB, good karma moments, some good karma points were earned that day. And Zenan and Dan became more than just our glassware supplier. Dan takes glassware seriously, shows immense love for his clients, and believes in the power of standing behind his products, and he's here to talk about it all today. So grab something cold, a fresh GLB perhaps, pour it into the proper glass, and buckle up for a great chat with Dan, the Glassman. Hang tight, we'll be right back.
It's Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery. We believe in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. It's Great Lakes Brewery. Order online for free local home delivery. In the GTA, good times and amazing beer. That's GLB.
Hey there, Dan. Welcome to Between Two Fermenters.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
It's about time we got you on here. Long overdue. I'm a glass nerd. Love my glassware. So I'm really excited to have you here. Are you ready to teach some folks about the importance of glassware today?
I'm ready.
And to talk a little bit about yourself and in the company?
Yeah,
okay,
for sure.
Let's do it. Speaking of glassware, this is the first episode other than the one we did with Morella Amato, who insisted that she has a glass to drink her beer in. But this is the first episode where the both of us, the guest and I, are going to use one. So we brought over a Zenan glass that you guys produced for us. It's a 16-ounce Manchester. We're going to get real geeky about this today. But there's a sunny side there for you. Crack that sucker open and
I will.
This is a audio podcast, but I'm going to critique your pouring here.
No problem. But before I do that, I actually brought you something because I know you brought Zenan glasses, but This is a serious operation.
Oh my God.
And now you got
That's
some custom
crazy awesome, man.
between two fermenters glasses.
So, yeah, you can't see this, but I'll show pictures when we post this episode. But Dan has created a pint glass with the branding between two fermenters, and it's got my ugly mug on there. A podcast by Great Lakes Brewery. That's amazing, man. I love that.
All right.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. All right, and the pour was good. Okay.
All right. I was nervous about that.
So we got a custom glass and we got a beer. What else? The day is made.
Yeah.
We can just stop right now.
Perfect. You had a great intro, so
Okay,
I don't have to say anything.
All right,
I don't want to
all
ruin
right.
it.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. Here we go. So now we got our beer out of the way. Let's get right into it. But before we talk about Zenan and glassware and beer, let's back it up just a bit. Who is Dan Silva before all of this?
Yeah. So I grew up in Pickering, Ontario, and spent most of my life there. I say the first 18 years of my life was all about sports, mostly hockey and soccer. So grew up playing competitive soccer and hockey, got drafted to the OHL, played a little bit of junior hockey, went to high school downtown at St. Mike's, mostly hockey related. And then post that, I did a business degree at McMaster University, where when I left McMaster, I was hired at PepsiCo, which you've mentioned. So it was a campus hire program that I got into right out of university.
Kind of like how the big breweries do that with university students as well.
Exactly, yeah. So I had a few buddies at McMaster that we all ended up at Pepsi in their campus hire program. So it took you around all the different functions of the company, even though I was hired to do sales, spend some time in the plant, spend some time with the delivery drivers just to see kind of the whole operation before I settled into my sales role. And I actually started with Pepsi out in Vancouver. So at the time I was finishing McMaster, my dad's work was taking my parents out to BC, and Pepsi said I could do it out there. So I said, hey, why not go check it out?
Nice.
And spent about a year and a half out in Vancouver, and I love Toronto, and I was always a Toronto boy, and spent all my vacation coming back to Toronto and going to Jays games. And I was just like, I knew my parents would end up back here eventually. So I said, hey, I don't know why I'm going to start my life out in Vancouver. So I came back. And then about 10 years later, my parents came back.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Who'd you get drafted by, the OHL? Or did you play in the O? Or
I didn't go. I wanted to go to school. So back then you couldn't do both.
Either, yeah.
So I got drafted by Erie Otters, which is funny because I didn't even know they were in the U.S.
Yeah.
until after they drafted me. I was like, I thought it was an Ontario Hockey League.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
crazy. I didn't know that. Learned a new fact about you today.
There you go.
So nearly 11 years at PepsiCo. So started out straight from university. But that's a pretty serious run with a massive company. What were some of the roles you held there? Because looking through, you did a lot of different things there. And what did that time teach you before moving over into this current role?
Yeah, no, it was definitely instrumental into everything that I'm doing today, and not even knowing it at the time. But I started as a sales rep, so literally going out to grocery stores, convenience stores, selling in Pepsi, selling in innovation, setting up displays. So just really learning from the ground up. And after that, I went into the head office in Mississauga as a sales analyst. From there, I went to key account role, then a district sales manager, managing a team of sales reps. So I had the downtown Toronto territory, and then back into the head office for 3 or 4 more key account roles. So from Circle K, when Esso became Circle K, that whole transition to Dollarama, Costco, Shoppers Drug Mart. So just dealing with the buyers there. And then my last role was a sales strategy role. So Pepsi brings out so much innovation every year, and I was kind of the link between the marketing and key account teams and the field team. So how do we go out and execute and get this stuff in store, and how does it look, and all that.
You're a fitness guy, I know that. Do you drink pop?
No.
No.
If I do, it's a zero. I'll have a Pepsi Zero.
Pepsi Zero, the black label.
Yeah,
that's the one I drink. So at some point you made the leap from one of the biggest beverage companies, because PepsiCo is one of the largest beverage companies in the world, to a specialty glassware manufacturer. I like to say pivot so that I can raise a glass, so that was an interesting pivot. What made you make that leap?
Yeah, I would love to say it was intentional, but myself and Luke, who's my partner at Zenan, and we have another partner who's not part of the day-to-day business. He was looking to purchase a business, and he comes from the construction background, so he has a large construction company, and he was looking more in that space. So, looking at different, like maybe a drywall company or something related to that. And we were pretty close to buying a drywall company in Ottawa, and Luke and I moving out to Ottawa to run that, which wasn't something I was super thrilled about, because again, I love Toronto. And then, that kind of fell through, and Zenan Glass came across their desk, and again, I don't think it was something they were looking at. Didn't even really something that I knew was around. Yeah. And once I heard about that, I got excited about that because I like beer and I was staying in Ontario, and it sounded a lot more fun than drywall. And so it's been coming up on 5 years. We were October 2021, which was an interesting time during lockdowns and stuff like that to get into beer and glassware. But I'd love to say I knew that was a Manchester Glass 5 years ago, but I had no idea.
So you were learning as the whole transition happened.
100%.
So we're going to get to Zenan in just one second. And this has to do with Zenan, but I want to ask about the trivia videos right off the top, because I love them. I said that earlier. You got a fun social media thing going on with your staff. Yeah, it's drink trivia, not just beer trivia, but drinks trivia. What's the story behind that?
Yeah, so, and we'll talk a little bit about how Luke and I have transitioned kind of Zenan internally and externally in the industry. But one that I was sitting there looking at was, we do glassware. All the breweries are so active on social media. There's, 1,200 breweries, I don't know exactly, across the country. I can't get to all of them. I can't talk to them every day. So what's the best way for us to connect? And it's like, our social media has to have a presence. Yeah. So it was a great, everyone says, great idea, Dan. And then I looked around the room and I was like, well, wait, I have to do this now. Yeah. So great idea, Dan. And it was just trying to find I can't just walk around the plant and be like, post a glass. It's not exciting. So how can we find at least a couple posts a week that are repeatable, have a little, continuity to it. So we came up with Fun Fact Friday and then with the trivia, and we pepper some different things in there. But both Fun Fact Friday and the trivia have gotten a pretty good. Yeah.
So it's not even just about glassware. It could be a glassware question, but it's usually what country drinks the most stout or whatever. And so I'm shooting probably 70% on some of those questions. Right. So if you're a trivia nut and you're into beverages, alcohol beverages, check out Zenan, their Instagram account, because you'll have some fun going through the questions. So that was our good segue. I purposely did that, little segue into Zenan. So for folks who aren't that familiar, and honestly, most people probably aren't familiar that are sitting at a bar right now having a beer, a Great Lakes beer out of a pint glass. They're probably not like, oh man, this is probably a Zenan glass. They probably have never heard of Zenan. So give me the Zenan story. I know they've been around for a long time, but the whole story, and what does the business actually do?
Yeah, for sure. So Zenan has been around since 1990, which is definitely a long time, especially in the beer industry. And we're based in North York, and the main stuff that we do is decorating glassware. So we source glassware. We don't manufacture it. There's a few big glassware manufacturers around the world. Weird enough, there's no glassware manufacturer in Canada. So a lot of our stuff comes from the US, from South America, and from Europe. And then we do the printing and decorating of the glassware. We used to do a lot of apparel, which at Great Lakes. We're getting back into that more. So we have screen printing presses and embroidery in-house as well. But we have 7 or 8 different decorating capabilities at Zenan. We kind of help breweries build their brand and make sure that, the care that they put into the beer is translated into what the consumer's holding in their hands.
So it's not just beer glasses either.
It's not beer glasses. We do beers. We do wineries across the country. And we also work with the liquor companies, which used to do a lot of it 4 years ago, which was like the gift with purchase at the LCBO. So if you see the glass in the gift box on the bottle of Bailey's, we would print the glass. We have a good partner that prints the boxes. We co-pack it all and ship it off ready to go.
So essentially it's a one-stop shop.
Exactly.
For you guys. And you mentioned the apparel. It used to be you could order 1,000 units of glassware and then throw in 1,000 t-shirts on the same kind of order. And you're getting back into that, you're saying?
Yeah, we're getting back into that. It's just, we're seeing how we can help the industry, and breweries have a lot going on, as you know, and a lot of breweries are, only a couple people. So if we can narrow down the number of emails and phone calls and shipping tracking that they need to worry about, it's going to help them out as well.
So you said 1990, Zenan was born. It is a long time in the industry, and it's, led to Zenan being the largest in Canada for what you guys do. But how has the business evolved over the decades? And that's before we get to when you and Luke took over the ownership in 2010.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, some of the breweries out there that have been around, like Great Lakes, probably know more about the beginning of Zenan than I might. So the original owners are who we bought it from, so they were still there when we were there, and heard different stories. It wasn't, hey, open up shop and we're drowning in orders. It was, we got to go out, and Naz, who's still at Zenan, has been there almost 27 years now. So for a lot of the time. And it was a hustle. It was go out, breweries were already getting glassware other places, and they had to fight for their orders. They had to bring in inventory. I remember the story that Naz told me was the first pallet that they got ordered. They had a tiny little space that barely fit the pallet and the printing machine. And so Ivan, who started the company, slept in his car in the parking lot because the pallet had to sit outside
overnight
just to make sure no one stole it, and then wake up, open the garage, print it, and send it out. So, they built a pretty impressive business up until, we took it over. But yeah, it was a lot of blood and sweat.
For sure. And then you guys have really put a stamp on it, you and Luke. You've changed the identity from an insider's perspective. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of those bigger changes, but how have you guys, in your view, changed it since you took over in 2021?
Yeah. So like we said, it was family started, family run. It was kind of a family lifestyle business. They were good at what they did. I don't know that they were necessarily beer people or to go out and have some beers and meet everyone. They were a supplier, right? And a supplier that the breweries needed. What our goal was to become more of a partner to the industry. So, I'm a younger guy. I love beer. I love going to breweries. I love hanging out. So, how do we become not just someone that the breweries need to call every once in a while, but they actually enjoy doing it. We have a little fun. We try to promote them on our social media. It's beer. It's fun. Like if we're not having fun, like what are we doing? And glassware is just one part of that brewery experience that, we can make sure and take the stress out of it. So like we said, breweries are ordering all these different things for an event, for a launch. I just want to make sure that the glass is one thing that they know is going to be there. They know it's going to be good, and it's something that they don't have to worry about.
Yeah. So that's on the glass side of things. How have you changed the business from a cultural perspective on the inside of the shop?
Yeah, there's been a ton of changes that no one would see internally. So again, I got to show up every day. I want to make sure it's a fun place to work. I want to make sure our employees have a fun place to work, that they enjoy coming in, they enjoy what they do. We try to share, any accolades or reviews that we get from breweries or partners to say, hey, look at this team, look what we did. You guys should be really proud of this. So yeah, I mean, give everyone a voice. Again, it's been 5 years. I've learned a lot about glass and decorating. I don't know everything. So it's just about having that open concept of, hey, if you got an idea, let's hear it. It's a bit hectic there. The plant was kind of thrown together over the years and could probably use a good reshuffle to make things flow a little bit better. So it gets hectic at times, but let's just make sure it's a fun place to work. We do our work, we get things out, and just enjoy each other's company.
Nice. So customer service seems to be, you said you like to go and show up and be one less headache that a brewer needs to have in their day-to-day stuff. So let's talk about that customer service just a little bit here, because as a buyer, it's noticed. I mentioned that story about you guys and the crew making the custom pint glasses, and then you show up with custom glasses today, which is amazing. But you attend brewery events all across Canada. If you guys are at a trade show or a conference, you're out in the public and going to the breweries and supporting them. You visit those breweries to show your support, but you highlight on your accounts, like your beer accounts on social media. So in this day and age, when you look at your competition, if you will, why do you think that's so important to your success in the industry?
Yeah, it's just building it more of a relationship so people know my face. And again, we put it on Instagram. I'm not a social media guru. I don't know the last time I posted on my personal Instagram account, but when it comes to business, and my wife will laugh at me that I'm holding my phone upside down to take a picture of a glass, or, trying to come up with Fun Fact Fridays to film. But it's just about making it a little more personable. So it's not just an email. It's not just a transaction. I also love a lot of these breweries and the beers, and I haven't met a person that I wouldn't want to have a beer with in the industry. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, it's been 5 years and I've never walked away from a brewery and like, what the heck? Like, who is that?
Now it makes you feel good because you're doing what you love to do. And how do you think it impacts your sales and the impact it's had on growing the business?
Yeah, I think it's been bigger than I expected, to be honest. Just to hear your story of us showing up, like, I didn't think it was a huge thing. It was nice. Hey, here's some glasses. And we try to do that for a lot of the anniversaries. If I see it on Instagram, I'll message the account manager, say, hey, I know they have an order in for their anniversary. Let's throw 12, 24 glasses in there. Something that just say happy. Yeah. And I think it just builds that connection between, hey, let's not even have them think about it. We need a glass, call Zenan, email Zenan. Like,
it's like I said, it's like in this day and age, it's all transactional stuff. And then it seems, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but Dan and Luke taking over, it was more transactional. Need our glasses. Oh, we have an issue with them. Okay, well, we'll figure it out. Now it's, if there's any issue, well, we're going to deal with it, and we're going to deal with it immediately. And we're going to show up. We have a charity barbecue. Well, there's Dan and Luke and Arjun and everyone showing up, which is crazy. So back to the space. You have 75,000 square feet or something like that. It's a huge building.
Yeah.
You do over 12 million units a year, or that could be more now. Those are some pretty big, huge numbers. So paint me a picture what the operation actually looks like.
Yeah. So 70 to 75,000 square feet, about 10,000 of that is office space, and we have a showroom and a boardroom, but it's nothing pretty.
I remember when the dogs used to be in there, and little small dogs, but you'd go in there thinking, I'm going to lose an ankle.
Yeah. The dogs were loud, and there's no more dogs there now. But yeah, so the plant is big. It's the rest, so it's probably 60, 65,000 square feet. There's pallets of glass everywhere. One of our biggest, I think, advantages is our speed to getting orders out, and that's because we hold a lot of inventory. We probably have over 1,000 pallets of glassware between where we are in North York and then a third-party storage facility. And like I mentioned, we would start with, maybe they started with screen printing, and then it moved to decals, and then it moved to, we have digital printers now, and we're investing more in technology. The flow of the plant makes no sense. Like, if somebody was like Six Sigma trained, they would come in and be like, I'm having a heart attack. Yeah. So, and I kind of have that feeling when I'm in there. And right now our plan is, when we showed up, there was so many different things that we wanted to fix. It was kind of trying to boil the ocean. So, we've invested in our people, we've invested in technology. And I think the next thing we need to do is just make the flow of the plant more efficient and make it easier for our employees. And so come by if you're in North York and you can see what I mean, but there's forklifts and pallets and different stuff going on all over the place.
You mentioned the digital decals, screen. What is the most common printing application now?
Yeah, when we got there, it was hand applied decals, which is very old for the industry. It's all about now like high speed UV printing machines, because it's kind of like one machine that pre-treats the glass, prints it, it comes out, it goes in the box. So we're getting more into that now. Realistically, Zenan should have been in that 10, 15 years ago.
But that speeds up the process as well too, right?
Speeds up the process, helps us get, more glassware out quicker, makes us more efficient. And to speak to that inventory allows us to be a little more, I guess, what am I trying to say?
Like flexible?
A little more flexible, but take a little more risk on the glassware we bring in to say, hey, because I usually have to commit to a pallet to bring it in. So I got to be confident that I'm going to sell it, or I end up with 100 pallets of stuff that no one wants. Decal, we're moving less decals just because we're getting more into the high-speed printing. There's always going to be a need for decal just based on the shape of the glass. So sometimes people want a logo on the bottom of the glass, or they want it to follow the curve of a very, shapely glass. And that can only be done by hand. Yeah. Nice.
So you mentioned earlier too that you source your glass from a bunch of different places, the U.S. and some European manufacturers, Libby, Arc. Walk me through how that supply chain works. You said you have to kind of commit to a pallet, but what it means for the customers in terms of variety and quantity. Are you guys introducing a lot of glassware to breweries, or do you find the breweries are coming to you?
Yeah, it's a wide range, and there's a lot of breweries that are very big on glassware, and they might come to me and say, hey, can you guys get this glass? Tooth and nail, Matt. Actually, I just brought in a glass for him, specifically for him. True Histories like that, Mellon in Montreal is like that. They know what they want. They know more of the glassware out there than I do. Yeah. And so the nice thing is that we source from so many manufacturers, and if it's coming from Europe, we got to bring a container. So it's easy for me to say, hey, I'm bringing a container so I can throw a pallet of that in. Now, ideally, they're committing to more than 72 of that pallet. Because say a pallet's 800 to 1,000 pieces. And then, that lets me bring it in and then show it off to, if Matt at Tooth and Nail wants it, then maybe True History wants it, or, any other lager-based brewery. And so Libby and Arc in the U.S. would be our general, mainstays that are pumping out a lot of volume. And then the stuff that we bring in from Rustal or Somme or Ritzenhof from in Europe is a little more, nice. And some people are looking specifically for something like that.
Yeah. So let's walk through practically the process. So a brewery owner, a marketing manager, maybe someone listening right now, whether it be, in craft beer, it could just be the brewer sitting here listening and they want to make a glass, but they decide they want to get a branded glassware made, company logo, whatever. What does the process actually look like from start to finish when they pick up the phone and they call Dan?
Yeah. It could look different because some breweries know exactly what they want. And they'll email us and say, I want this glass, I want this logo, I want it 2 inches wide, 50 millimeters from the rim, and make sure you send me that proof, and we'll go from there. And there's other people that say, I need a 16-ounce glass for a festival. What do you think? Mm-hmm. And both are fine because, our team's been there for a while. We kind of know what we can offer. We know what we have. We know what we can offer. If they have a logo, we can show them the different places, ways we can put it, full color, one color. And we have a graphic design team in-house. If you don't know what you want on the glass, just give us a little bit of information and we can come back to you with some ideas. We'll take a look at your Instagram, your website, and just put together some ideas that we think might fit and go from there.
So when we talk about minimums and stuff like that, so you just said like hopefully or more than 72 units, but do you do custom glassware for, I don't know, like a Jack and Jill or weddings and stuff, or do you focus mostly on just companies?
Yeah, no, we do. It's a smaller part of the business, but we do have people reach out. They want, 100 shot glasses to give away as a gift at their wedding. We do actually a lot of candle companies that people don't know, and we'll spray glass for candle companies. We say our minimum order is 72, and we get tons of orders of 72 pieces. We've done even less than that for people that, for whatever reason, if it's a glass we have in-house and they need 48 or something like that. And really what our team tries to do is just, we'll treat a 72 piece order the same as a 5,000, 10,000 piece order. Okay. So we try to get them out in the same amount of time, and it's actually more pressure to do 48 classes for someone because they're likely going to look at every single one of them and see if it's off a millimeter. Than if someone orders 3,000 glasses, they're not going to look at all of them. We got to be.
You're perfect at Zenan.
Yeah, we never make any mistakes. No, but it's So all order sizes are welcome, and we make sure we try to get everything perfect.
So when a brewery says what you just mentioned, say we want 500 glasses, they come to you, they call you, and sometimes they know what they want, sometimes they don't. But where does the conversation start if they don't? Is it the design, the specs?
Yeah, I think we start with the size. If they want 16 ounce, they want 20 ounce. The style, if they're not sure on the style, we'll ask what kind of beer they're looking to serve in it. What's it for? Is it a lager? Do you want a Stein? Is it an IPA? Do you want something with more shape? So just those generic questions to find out what they're trying to do with it. Is it for the retail room? Is it for the tap room? To understand what they want out of the glass, and then we can kind of suggest things from there.
And when you sit down, you said your graphic design team, you have one. Is that common in a glassware company?
For design a glass, you could have a graphic designer literally just to make the proofs and send it out and then make the production files. But yeah, we have 3 graphic designers, all that have worked in the industry for a while. So they've kind of built their knowledge of what's possible and what's not, because we get some wild requests. And
is that a free service to a brewery? Because when I'm hearing you talk about it, you have 3 on staff and they're handling or they're seeing designs from, I don't know, of the 1,100 plus breweries in Canada that you're selling to. or you're producing for, they're seeing all those designs come in. They're seeing the different shapes. They're seeing the different logos and colors and what you guys can do. So would you say it, well, it sounds like it, but would it be advantageous for a younger kind of up and coming brewery to reach out and say, based on your knowledge, what could I do?
Yeah, 100%. And our sales team, myself, Arjun, Naz, we've been around for a while, we'll have some input as well. And then we'll, before we get back to you, we'll speak to the design teams to say, hey, like even when we did this, hey, is this going to come out? Is it going to look good? Is it good? Is it going to show?
He's
Troy?
Talking about my glass.
Yeah. So
it's the first time I've ever had my face on a beer glass. It's pretty cool.
There's 24 more for you. I was thinking you could give them out. You could give them out, but it might be a little Derek Jeter-esque if you're giving out glasses with your face on it after a podcast.
I'll let Mike Boone, the producer here, I'll let him in the background. He can hand them out to some guests. Yeah.
Yeah. So, check with the graphics team. Hey, is this possible? Is that possible? What should we recommend? So if you're new, you don't know what you want on your glassware, it's just easy as an email and we can get you back some ideas. And then that might spark your creativity. Say, oh, I like that, but let's do this. And we'll get you something on there.
We're going to talk a little bit later on about the consumer side of glassware and why it matters and stuff like that. But you mentioned the most creative or unusual brief you've ever received from a brewery. I want to ask that, but I also want, before we get there, is what is your most what is your most popular glass for breweries?
It would be like your standard shaker, like mixing glass.
Yeah, and I hate that glass. That's the 16-ounce US pint.
Correct. Yeah, it would be that. The Manchester, probably, up there. The Britain or like the Nonic glass. Yeah. Those would probably be the top three. Or the Willie Bilboa.
The Willie, what used to be called the Willie Beecher or something
Willie
like
Becker,
that.
Yeah.
Willie Becker or something back in the day. And why do you think that is, or those are the more popular glassware?
They've been around forever. Like the Nonic, everyone knows what it looks
Classic
like.
British
the Manchester,
style pint,
yeah. So they're easy. They're made so I think even in the US. So they're made so often that they're cost effective. So if somebody wants something that's versatile to serve all their beers in, like those are probably the most common ones. And then if you want something specific for a launch or something like that, you can get into something more kind of custom. Yeah,
I believe we used to buy a lot of the Willies, or we did from another company. But when we would buy those, they were a lot cheaper because breweries across Canada, across North America, were using those as kind of their water glass, their beer glass, and just
Caesar glass,
everything kind of glass. And then a lot of breweries went into the shakers, the Mill Streets of the world. That's their predominant glass, or it used to be. Haven't had a Mill Street in a glass in years and years. A little shot, but those glasses seem to. I don't want to say dying off, but people are introducing new glassware to their portfolio. You mentioned some of the breweries earlier, but for Great Lakes, we shifted into the Manchester. We got away from those Willie glasses because it highlights and accentuates all the different varieties of our beer better than the standard kind of water glass, if you will. So what is it that breweries are actually looking for today? Is it looking for economies of scale, or are they looking for a glass that accentuates their brands?
Yeah, and I mean, I know it's not realistic for every brewery to have 8 different glasses in the tap room that match all the different, if everything was perfect, I'm sure they would, just cost wise, cleaning wise, storage space wise, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah. So I think similar to what you guys are doing at Great Lakes, it's, how can we find that happy medium between it's a nice glass, it's versatile and it works with a bunch of different beer styles, but it also looks good. We're happy to have it. We're happy to have our consumers holding it in our hand and having people drink from it.
So let's get back to that question about the most creative or unusual brief that you guys have ever received.
I mean, there's been a bunch that it's not possible. And even for like people reaching out to us wanting an actual custom made glass. And it's just like, well, one, it's like 100,000 piece run to get a custom glass, and it's not cheap and it takes 8 months. You can't just whip it up. From a decoration perspective, for the retail side, I feel like Burdock makes some really cool glassware. So if you go on their website or just go in the tap room, they always have some really nice steins or something that's matching one of their core brands. And then for the wackiest, I have to overall give it to Messerem. Like they've always, Marc Andre's always sending me wacky stuff that I don't even know is possible until we talk to the graphic design team. So I can't think of one specifically, but I would say overall they've got kind of the most wacky designs.
And what would be the craziest, most expensive glass someone's ever said, hey, can we do something like this?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few. I know for Rouge River, for their anniversary, we did a stemmed glass with a full wrap gold, real gold. So if you see a glass that has shiny metallic gold on it, it is real gold. And same with the gold rim. So, and we're seeing a lot more of that. We're seeing a lot, especially for anniversaries or stuff like that. So when I got there 5 years ago, we weren't doing a whole bunch of gold rims and gold decals, but I think it's becoming a lot more common. So instead of getting 500 one color prints, we're getting 200 with gold and a gold rim, and it's just more intentional.
Our 40th anniversary is next year, and so we'll be heavily investing in Zenan again to come up with some pretty crazy 40th anniversary glassware.
Nice.
We're going to take a quick break, hear an ad from our boy Roland Baggett's and his Sunnyside Session IPA, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk more beer business because this is a craft beer podcast after all. So hear from Roland, and we'll be right back with Dan Silva from Zenan Glass.
Well, how's your doodle? Roland Baggett's here, rolling solo down here at Sunnyside Beach. I's likes to get here nice and early to grabs me some prime sandy real estate. I lays out me towel, slather myself liberally with tannin butter, and soak in some tasty vitamin D. Speaking of tasty, looky in me cooler box. A whole gaggle of Sunnyside Session IPA. Big on the taste, low on the alcohol. A springtime, summertime, anytime treat, and a permanent staple in the grips of me fingers. Oh, and check out the can to see a brand new me. Been lifting some iron to boost me biceps, triceps, and me deltoids. You know what they say, sun's out, guns out. Work your tan and crack a can of Sunnyside Session IPA.
Thanks, Roland. Sunnyside Session IPA is now out everywhere. It's springtime, summertime, anytime treat. Dan, let's talk about the beer business. Like I said right before we went to break, it is a craft beer podcast. So what percentage of your business actually comes from breweries?
Yeah, right now it's like I said, it's more than a few years ago. Just with what's going on at the LCBO, I would say north of 85% of our business is breweries.
Is breweries. That's big.
Yeah.
So go support your local brewery. So I mentioned earlier, you work with everyone from the big guys. And when I say the big guys, I mean the multinational giants to the tiny independent craft breweries, just trying to get their feet under them. You might be their first call for material, if you will. Like, hey, we need glassware. We're opening up in a couple months. So what is that range like? Is the conversation different depending on who you're talking to, obviously?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and maybe with the big guys, it is more transactional because, they just want a lot of their core brands. They send a PO. They want it to show up in 3 weeks, and we just make sure it shows up in 3 weeks. Yeah. If they have a new launch or something coming out next year and they want to get some ideas, that's where the conversation would get a little more intense. But yeah, I think coming from Pepsi and understanding, even working with suppliers there is, again, they want consistency. They want it to show up on time, and if that's 90% of the battle. With craft beer, you might have your core glass that you want to send an email and get it there in 3 weeks, but I think it's a lot more kind of what we talked about, personable, give them some ideas, show them something new. It's hard for all these breweries to keep up. So if we get something new in, hey, shoot an email. I think these breweries might like it, or blast it out. We'll put it on social media to say, hey, these are coming in. Let us know. We got 2 pallets, so secure yours now. So yeah, it's a little more intentional with the craft beer side.
Well, the national breweries will have a whole marketing team and procurement departments, and most, if not all of them, have brand teams. So if I'm Molson, I might have a Canadian team, a Coors team, et cetera, et cetera. A small craft brewery often has the founder doing everything at startup, or they have at least one dedicated person. So you just mentioned it, how you deal with it, but how do you adapt the business to those conversations? Like, are your big breweries kind of the bulk of the business of that 80%, or is it the smaller breweries doing a lot smaller runs, but you add them all up and it's kind of craft breweries are kind of dominating, or is it the big guys?
Yeah, I mean, The big guys are the volume,
Yeah.
right? And they're paying the bills, helping us keep the lights on, and they're giving us the flexibility to bring in new glassware for craft breweries. Like they want their shakers and their Manchesters and their Willy glasses. And, we get those out. It keeps the machines running. It allows us to bring in, we get a better price on Manchesters because we buy a container of it.
Yeah.
We only buy a container of it because we know they're going to take the majority of that container, and it benefits craft breweries because we're getting a lower price for buying in bulk. So it works really well together. And you mentioned, these big brewers have marketing teams and procurement teams. You would think they're a little more organized and well planning, and I can assure you that is not the case.
Yeah, okay.
And then the problem with that is when they have a rush or an emergency, it's a big one.
It is a
right?
big rush.
It's not
a big
get us
emergency,
100 glasses by next week. It's we need 10,000 glasses by next week. So, yeah, it's kept me on my toes for sure. I'd say no single day is the same, and I don't know what. I haven't checked my emails in about an hour, so there could be a couple fires in there I'm not aware of already.
And as a VP of Sales and Procurement, you're working with both. You personally are working with both. Not to put you on the hot seat here, but what's more fun, working with the big or the small?
Oh, small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why is that?
It's just more fun. I connect better with, and it's the reason I've kind of fallen in love with the craft beer industry over the last 5 years is, every time I go to a new town, it's, okay, I got to check what brewery's there. My wife knows we're popping in, whether it's for an hour or 15 minutes, just to say hi. Like, it's such a great experience, and I enjoy it so much. I enjoy trying all the beers. I have a list on my desktop of all the breweries in Canada and which ones I've been to, and the next time I go to BC, I'm like, okay, I got to knock a few more of these off. There's so many, I can't get to them all. And if you want me to come, shoot me a note, and I'll see what I can do. But yeah, it's just awesome connecting with the craft breweries and seeing their love and their passion for the business, and just trying to match it with the small part of it that we supply.
And you guys are national, like
Yep.
you supply glassware nationally. What province orders the most from a small brewer perspective?
Well, it'd be just based on quantity, I think, would be Ontario.
Just based on the number of breweries?
Correct, yeah. And the size, like I think Ontario has the biggest craft breweries. But yeah, I mean, we do a lot out in BC and Alberta, Ontario, Quebec. But yeah, I think it's mostly based on how many breweries are in a province. And
as someone who deals with breweries straight across Canada, and you do a lot, you just said with BC, how do you see the different markets? How do you see the BC market compared to Ontario? What's some of the striking things as a supplier that you notice that you would say to?
Yeah, and I think it's been in the news a lot, and you're obviously involved in it, is just understanding every province is so different as far as their taxes and how every province is set up. And from an outsider coming in, why can't I get a beer from Montreal? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. So just trying to have our team understand the different impacts. Something that's impacting your client in BC is not necessarily impacting your client in Ontario, and vice versa. And just trying to keep up to date on that. So I try to put together, just for our team, like a newsletter industry every couple weeks. Just say, hey guys, if you haven't seen, this is what's going out. There used to be that website, Craft Beer,
Canadian Beer News.
Yeah.
Greg
And that was amazing for
Yeah.
us, because we could just jump on there and see what was going on. So when he stopped doing that, I was like, damn.
Yeah, Greg sold it, and then the company that bought it ended up not doing anything with it, and he got it back, and it's still dormant. But I plead with him whenever I do see him to bring that back, because it was a valuable resource for everyone in this industry.
Yeah. So understanding that side of it, understanding, even weather differences, like, hey, we know it's getting warmer in BC before it is here. Let's get the flyer pictures out. Let's make sure that, because it helps us kind of stagnate it too. Because if every place across the country was opening patios next weekend, we'd be in trouble.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good strategy. I want to ask you about pictures of beer.
Yeah.
We started doing them more and more internally. They've always been a thing at bars and restaurants, but the craft side of the business has never really adopted the pictures. Are you seeing more of that these days, or is it still the same?
Yeah, we're seeing it. We're seeing it more for sure in craft beer. It's still big, and like you mentioned, in the big bars and the big breweries. But even having yourself do it, we're seeing other ones, they're looking for 12 or 24 and, it is what it is. We can get it done. But yeah, I'm sure it all comes down to the economies for the brewery and what makes sense and in what format for you guys to sell the beer. But I would say we're seeing more craft brewery and order pitchers.
And to put you on the spot, why do you think that is these days? Are you pushing them or are they coming to you?
No, they know we have it. And again, I think it comes down to the economics. Maybe it makes sense for them to get more draft out when they have people come in. I can only guess. I'm no expert, but hey, maybe it keeps them there an extra 30, 40 minutes if they were only getting one beer each and then leaving. Now they got a pitcher. Yeah,
I think the big guys always knew that sitting around a table with a pitcher is something that keeps people engaged, keeps people talking. You have your 4 individual pints, 4 different beers or whatever, and it's 4 different conversations or whatever, but people are on the phones. The pitcher on the table always seems to indicate that we're here for a session.
Yeah.
To me, as someone who's been in this industry a long time. So I'm excited to see where it goes for craft beer. We've always played off that pitchers are, domestic, swill kind of, and I would never say that because the big beers are done very well, consistently every time. But now seeing like a Canuck pitcher come to your table, that's pretty exciting to me. And, you and I shared some pictures of Sunnyside a couple of weeks back at the brew pub. So I'm excited about this change. Are you guys geared up for that?
Yeah, we're ready. We got tons of inventory and we're ready to print.
Are you seeing them across all the country or just mostly in...
For craft, it's been mostly Ontario right now. We do some pitchers out in BC, but yeah.
Yeah, I can't recall ever seeing, the pitcher culture in Quebec. I don't recall ever seeing a pitcher sitting on a table. I could be wrong. If I am wrong, shoot me a message and tell me where to go. But branded glassware has become a real thing. When I started in this industry, it was nice to have. Bars were always asking for it, and I can remember Great Lakes would just go out to the dollar store and buy 12 glasses with no logo and just give it to someone just so that they had some glassware. But you used to go to a lot of bars that were just like, I'm not dealing with have 24 taps and now I have to have 24 different branded glasses and I'm just going to use blanks or whatever. But we're seeing more and more bars really appreciate the branded glassware again. But people collect them. We see pictures from our customers all the time of different glassware in their cupboard without buying them. They're taking them from bars and restaurants, stealing them, as we say, but it is a marketing expense. But what do you make of the role of glassware and how it's played in the evolution of Ontario craft over the last 10 years?
Yeah, for sure. And it's I hear of the boom of the 2017, 2018 craft beer. I wasn't around for it. I wish I got to experience it at Zenan. But I think the breweries that are doing it right are building the entire experience. So not only just in the tap room, but to being intentional about who your licensees are. I know Great Lakes puts a lot of care into, making sure the lines are clean at a licensee and that the beer is fresh and that the glass is clean. So it's a small part of that experience. And I think us at Zenan, we take it very, very seriously to make sure like that's going to be the point of contact with you guys and your consumer. And I think breweries are getting that more and they're being more, mindful of the glassware that they're putting out, the branding that they have, and it's building that whole, if I'm at a bar and I have a Great Lakes and it's fresh in a clean glass with the logo on it, the next time I'm driving through Etobicoke, I'm like, oh, I like Great Lakes. Yeah. I've had a great experience. And that's going to bring me into the brewery. Yeah,
craft brewers have always seemed to, once they've adopted putting logos on the glasses, where coming up with some fun things like, the fill line, it might say at the bottom, it might say reorder line. There could be, like you said, people printing the bottom of the pint glass. So when you get to the bottom, there's a message there like time for another or something like that. So I think a lot of craft brewers are using it as a marketing tool because they don't invest in the, the billboards and the magazines, the radio, TV ads. They can hit people in the bars,
right?
In the tap rooms. So when I say that, and you mentioned the creative things you've seen from the brewery in Montreal, Messroom. What is the coolest thing you've seen on a glass when it comes to creative branding, creative marketing, I should say?
Yeah, I think nucleation is something that not a lot of breweries use. Some of them do it. So nucleation is the laser engraved either logo or just design in the bottom of the glass. So it's inside the glass. It gives the bubbles and nucleation something to bounce off of at the bottom. And if you have a nucleated glass beside a non-nucleated glass, you can really see the difference. Like when I first saw it, looking it up, I'm like, this looks fake. But you can do it in person and it looks great. So a lot of breweries will use a logo in that. So some people will just have a spiral or something like that. But I always thought it was really cool to have either something written in there or so at the bottom, it's very subtle. So I've always liked that as a decoration point. As far as logos, I mean, this is pretty cool. This Troy on the glass is a pretty cool design.
The nucleation glass, I can remember Sam Adams, they had like a NASA scientist back in before your time in glassware, design this new glassware for them, and they have a proprietary glass and the shape and nucleation, and people in the beer were like, what does nucleation mean? And it's literally you pour your beer and it's continuously moving. It was pretty cool. So then the Ristels came out with the IPA glass and they were all etched, and as a small brewer we would go out and look at that and go, that's pretty cool. Give us a quote on like 4,000 glasses. Wow, we can't afford. That's an extra like 30 cents or whatever it was back in the day per glass. And that all adds up when you're ordering a lot of glassware. But
for sure,
you're ordering 1,000 units now of Manchester. What would be the cost? I'm putting you on the spot right now. What would be the cost to do nucleation on top of
20 cents?
20 cents. Okay. So it hasn't gone down that much, but yeah. And you guys do that in-house, or does that come from the manufacturer of the glass?
No, we do that in-house.
You do that in-house? Yep. Okay. Good to know. How many beer glasses have you stolen in your time?
From Zenan?
No, from bars.
Oh, from bars? Not that many. No.
You don't have a closet full of them?
I have a closet full of them, but I took them from the plant. I didn't take them from...
Do you drink your beer in a glass at home?
Always.
And do you match the beer you're drinking with the brand?
I try as much as I can. My wife and I, we moved to Etobicoke. We renovated the kitchen, and underneath the stools, there's a couple... like hidden cupboards, and that's where all my glasses are. So I have pretty much a glass from every Ontario brewery or around where I'm going to have most of my beers from. So now
let's see how hardcore you are. Do you have the glass washing tools in your house, or do you use a dishwasher?
I use a dishwasher, but most of them, if it goes in the dishwasher before I drink it, I'll hand wash it.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to talk about the consumer side now. So I'm going to ask you about the care and quality of your beer glasses at home. But first, what should everyday beer drinkers actually know about glassware that they probably don't, or they might know but don't consider it every time?
Yeah, I mean, the style matters. I think a lot of people, like we talked about being versatile. So there's versatile glasses that you can use, and then there's styles that matter. And for some styles, like, for a lager, and temperature is important too, right? So a lager is supposed to be served at a proper temperature. The reason a stein is so thick and you have a handle is to try to keep it at that temperature as long as possible. So yeah, the style matters. If you're drinking something with a lot of aroma, you want something that's going to deliver that aroma to your nose. 75-80% of what we taste comes from our smell. So which is why, I don't want to drink a beer out of a can, because Mike Lackey put a lot of work into this, and a lot of different, a lot of different stuff that he wanted us to experience. And you experience that with the glass that you choose.
Yeah. And so when they're at home and they're handling their glass, what are some of the tips you would say to get the best out of the beer? How should they treat their glassware at home? Yeah,
and maybe you just watch how they do it when you get it at a brewery. So I hand wash it, make sure there's nothing left in the glass. It's called having your glass beer clean. You don't want any oils or residue or anything like that. And then I'll wash it with hot water and then switch it to really cold water and just kind of get that glass down to like a cool temperature before I pour it in. If you do bring your glass right out of a dishwasher and it's super hot, you got to let it cool down. So you got to let it sit. And this isn't just for at home. This is for bars and restaurants, that if you ever see the bottom of a glass just break off kind of right where the sham ends, the reason for that is because the glass isn't fully down to room temperature. And that bottom sham is the thicker part of the glass. It's still warm, and the thinner part of the glass is cool. Yeah. And that's why it breaks right at that point, because you have molecules essentially going separate ways. And if there's any stress in the glass, which there's a lot of stress in glass when it's made at high temperatures, that's what you're going to see.
Kaboom.
Yeah.
We are very serious about our glassware at Great Lakes. I think on our shelves right now at the tap room, we have 3 different ones. We have the Manchester, we have the Willie, and we have the Britannia, which is the mug, the British mug that we do all of our Czech style pours into, and in our, which is, we do have to get a Czech style Stein, if you will, or a German one. We also have a bunch of tulips. We have some Belgian glassware. We have some different glassware that we sell to the public. And one of the things that we do when we talk to the brew pub staff is when we're educating them about glassware, it's why do you think they have the spritzer on the bar? And everyone always says, you know, the spritzer when you put your glass upside down and run cold water into it. And everyone always thinks it's to kill any or to get rid of any debris or anything, but it's really to get the beer glass down to the temperature of the beer that's going to go in it. Mm-hmm. Because as you just mentioned, if you put a cold beer into a warm glass, you're going to kill the beer. It's just going to start to die and you're going to ruin your glass. So that's one thing. The other one that we always talk about is stacking. What do you tell your customers about stacking?
Yeah.
And if you go into a restaurant and you see them stacking, do you ever chirp and say...
Well, I don't chirp because the glass is going to break soon and then they'll place another order. But basically what I say is just because a glass fits in another glass doesn't mean you should stack it.
Yeah.
So glass,
you want nucleation? No.
Yeah. So not every beer glass is tempered. So if its glass is tempered or heat treated, it makes it stronger. Pretty much a glass, if you ever see a glass with a shelf in it, that was made for stacking. Mm-hmm. So it's got a thicker part in the middle. You actually can't see it when the glass is full, but when the glass is empty, you can see that shelf. Those are made for stacking. They've had a different heat treated process to make it stronger. And
But still, would you ever recommend someone at home to stack their beer glasses?
Definitely not. No.
Well, why is that?
Well, then they're going to come back.
I know the answer, but...
What's your answer?
It's because they scratch the inside of the glass. They have, they might put this glass down on a dirty dish rag or something like that, and then that bottom goes into a clean glass, scratch the inside, and then when you start to see the fish eyes and the big carbonation needs to escape somewhere, right?
Yep.
So it's trying to go up through the top of the glass, but if your beer glass on the inside is scratched, the carbonation is finding the easiest access to get out.
Right.
But if it's stuck in a scratch, your beer is just dying. It's just flat. It's just going to be flat. So we always tell our bar and restaurant partners, please do not stack our glasses. If you're going to stack any glasses, do someone else's, but please do not do ours. What are some other tips and tricks that you would say to someone, drying your glassware at home?
Yeah. So for me, I just put it upside down on a rack, let it, you don't want it on a towel or something like that, because you're going to get the condensation in there. It's not going to dry properly. So you want some airflow, and just give it the proper time to not only dry totally, but also, to come back down to room temperature. I'm
a little anal about my glassware. So every month or so, I take all my beer glassware and I have the 3-brush glassware cleaning system with the suction cups. It goes on the bottom of the sink with lukewarm water with the pellet soaps, so it's not all greasy and stuff. And you do the dunk and goes through the 3 brushes and then into the cold water bath and then the air dry on the rack.
Right.
So I do those about once a month. And do you guys sell those things at Zenan?
No, we don't.
Okay, I think that's something you should be selling. I'm giving you a tip here.
All right.
So you mentioned the styles earlier too, and the different shapes. So what are some of the things that people at home should be looking for when they go to buy a beer glass for, let's take an IPA, for example.
Yeah.
Should they use a tall, slender glass, or should they use something with a wider mouth?
Yeah, you want something with a wider mouth. It might be more narrow in the middle, but then you definitely want it to open up at the top and let that aroma kind of deliver it right to your nose. So if you think of, like a Tiku glass, it gets a little narrow and then it opens up again and just kind of helps you smell all the different hops and character of that beer.
And we do a lot of IPAs and pale ales, and that's one of the reasons why we ended up choosing to go to the Manchester, because the Manchester has a smaller base and then it opens up, has a nice wide mouth, so you can stick the nose right in and get, like you said, the 75 to 80%. I always say 90%, so we're in the same ballpark. But now someone wants to drink a Belgian quad. What are you going with?
Yeah, I think you're going with a stem glass that's a little bit wider. It's not all about you want some head formation there and to keep the head. And yeah, it's a little different than an IPA. So, if you're drinking a Belgian, it's a stem glass with a wider top.
Wider top, yeah. And I think one of the bigger questions people ask me or I ask others, what do you think the most underrated glass is? So again, everyone's looking for the most economical glass or one that will suit their whole portfolio. But if you could tell a brewery this is an underrated glass, I think you should look at this. What would you say that would be?
Yeah. Well, I know your answer because I know the glass you love that's not available anymore, or it's only available in 16 ounce, which is the Crown Viking.
Yep. Best universal glass in the market, I think.
Yeah. And I don't know if you ever saw the Dagmar, which is a glass from Libby. It's also discontinued now. It has a similar shape, but I would say, it's very versatile. It's one of the glasses I like the most, and I don't know why no breweries ever used it. So if you look up the Libby Dagmar glass, I think that's one that I'd say was the most underrated.
In the glass that you just made, the Between Two Fermenters, is this the tooth and nail pint glass?
I don't know. I've never done this.
This is a nice pint glass too.
Yeah, this is called the Brent from Rastal.
The Brent.
So I brought in a pallet in our last container from Rastal, and we actually haven't sold any of them. So you're the only one out there with them.
All right.
But
Matt Tweedy.
It might be what Matt has.
Yeah, it's similar to the.
Yeah, we haven't done these ones for him, but yeah.
Well, we're going to take another quick break, Dan, and we're going to come back with some rapid fire questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Hang tight. We'll be right back with Dan.
Here we observe the elusive GLB pet octopus named Octo. Protective, territorial, passionate about hops.
I can hear you talking about me.
Its prized possession, the Great Lakes Brewery Octopus Wants to Fight 6-pack.
Which is now available at the LCBO for some reason.
Ah, yes, 6 shimmering cans of the Great Lakes Brewery Octopus Wants to Fight 6-pack. Bright, citrusy, dangerously drinkable.
How about some privacy, pal?
Unfortunately for the octopus, the 6-pack is now widely available.
Don't remind me.
Octopus Wants to Fight 6-pack, now available at the LCBO.
Why I order?
Ouchie, Great Lakes Brewery, brewed for you, Ontario.
Rapid fire question time, Dan.
All right.
Or as we say around here, rapid transit. It's as slow as molasses. Okay. What beer have you been enjoying recently that's not a Great Lakes beer?
I play a lot of golf. My golf course opened last week, and I walked in to happily see Outside Jokes on the tap for the first time. So
Jeff Tomey is getting a lot of love on this podcast these days, which is great because he's such an amazing human being.
Yeah. The weather hasn't been great, but I've been enjoying a couple outside jokes at the golf course.
Jeff is an outside joke. Name a brewery that consistently impresses you.
I'm going to say Matt and Adam at True History. I'd say outside of Great Lakes, that's probably the one I visit the most.
Yep. Well, I get some good news for you.
What's that?
They're coming on the podcast soon.
Awesome.
End of May, they'll be on the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I love the brewery. The beers are exceptional.
Well, I think you should love the brewery. The amount of glassware that I don't know about the amount, but the cost.
Styles and the cost. No, the quantity's a little smaller, but no, I mean, they know who they are.
Yeah.
They know they're not IPA hype people. They brew amazing beer and they just kind of stay true to themselves. Their socials are funny. So yeah.
I think not through your company years ago, but when they started doing some of the different glassware, we were like, oh, we like that one. We went to another supplier. We were like, oh, it's $11 a glass, a unit. And we're like, how are these guys spending that much for this place? But good on them because they, like you said, they know what they want and they do what they want.
They have a little rivalry with their friends at Milan and in Montreal because they just did
a collab together, if I'm not mistaken, recently. I think
they want 72 of one mug. They don't want anyone else to have it. But I'm like, I got to bring a pallet. So you're probably both going to end up with it eventually.
Adam and Matt, we're going to tag on to one of those. We're going to order more than 72. Name a person in the industry that has or continues to inspire you.
That's a good question. Matt Tweedy at Tooth and Nail. I always enjoy talking to him and just having a beer and just seeing his passion and stuff for the industry. And I know he's super well respected around.
He's a passionate fella. That
he
guy,
is, yeah.
If he wasn't doing the beer game, he would be a high school principal. I think so. Yeah. Just like his old man. Best time and place for a beer?
I would say on the patio at the golf course after 18 holes, when you're deciding to maybe do another emergency 9 after that.
Okay. Favorite bar to have a GLB in?
Maybe Hurricanes.
Oh,
A lot of
I thought you were going
TVs,
to go
watch
with
some sports.
Bryden's on Bloor.
Bryden's is great. The food's great.
He'll be here. He's the next guest. Tash is coming
Only
in.
Cafe is good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What's a beer style you think deserves more love?
Italian Pilsners.
Italian Pilsners. That's
I'm a big fan. Every time I have one.
That's out of left field.
Do they have one?
They have one.
Yeah. Every time I have one, it seems to be like a nice, I like hoppy beers. I like lagers. You know, it's a crisp lager with some hop profile to it. So it's kind of like a good blend.
Right. Best glass for drinking a beer in. So you mentioned one earlier from Libby.
The Dagmar, yeah.
Dagmar.
That would be one of them. And then maybe just, it's not used a lot in craft beer because it's thin and it's breaks and stuff like that. But the Bristol from Ritzenhoff, so the stemmed Bristol, I think it's one of my favorites.
Okay. If you could only drink one beer for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Ooh. I don't want to shout out Matt Tweedy again, but maybe Premio.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Not
every time
Vigor.
I'm about to order from, if Vimy Vigor is amazing. Yeah. But every time I'm ordering, Premio comes in and out. So I'm like, hey, are you making this anytime soon before I place an order? And
okay.
Yeah.
Best brewery you've ever toured?
The best brewery I've ever toured is probably Cowbell, just because it's so immense and amazing. I'd say the best surprise brewery that I just showed up to would be Quails.
Amazing brewery.
I knew in the area and I went there and I was just blown away.
Yeah. It's a destination. If you're listening and you've not been to Quails, I love to Cowbell, but go to Quails. Yeah. Quails is probably one of the nicest brewery footprints in all of Canada. I think it's just spectacular. What brewery do you not have that you really want to get in your portfolio?
Let's see. One that I lived downtown for 10 years, so one that I would go to every once in a while, and we don't do would be Bandit.
Okay. Yeah. All right. How big's your Rolodex? And for Rolodex, so you young guy, that was like a thing where you had all these contacts. How big's your phone contacts for breweries in Canada?
It's big. It's growing for sure. But yeah, like I said, out of the 1,100, I've only been to like 140 breweries, which sounds like a lot of breweries, but in the grand scheme of things, it's I gotta make that bigger.
So let's pitch a show idea that Zenan can sponsor, but it's you on the road, and you have someone following you around, and you visit breweries across Canada that you sell glassware to. That's a show that people would watch. A YouTube show or whatever, 5 minutes in a brewery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Zenan,
all right, I like it.
Sponsored by Zenan. If you could have a beer with just one person in the whole world, dead or alive, famous or not, who would you choose?
It would probably be sports related. Like I said, hockey was big for me growing up, and I honestly think like late 90s, early 2000s was kind of like the best era of hockey that I grew up in. So just based on the lore and the stories out there about him, maybe Brett Hull, I think would be an interesting
awesome podcaster.
Yeah.
He's he tells a lot of stories. Have you heard his podcast with who is it with? It's not Kelly. Tony Twist.
Yeah.
Is it Tony Twist or Kelly Chase? No, it's Kelly Chase.
Okay,
it's not Tony.
I've seen the clips.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome. If you weren't in beer, what would you be doing? Would you still be with PepsiCo?
No, I don't think so. I'd be running some kind of business. Yeah, I don't know which one, but yeah.
And last one, what's next for Dan and what's next for Zenan?
Yeah, our plan is to grow. So if there's a brewery out there that doesn't work with us, we want to work with you. We want to make it fun to work with Zenan. We want to make it fun to work at Zenan. So, we're investing in technology. We're investing in our capabilities. We're investing to bring in new glassware from all around the world to let people, if you only want 72, maybe we have it and you can get it. So we just want to keep growing and doing, we feel like what we're doing at Zenan is the right way to go about it. So just keep on that path. And
if anyone wants a Between Two Fermenters glass, let's get these out there in the world.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, Dan, glassware is one of those things that you walk past every day in this industry without giving it a second thought. Well, some of us do. I think about it, but I think you just made listeners think about it in a completely different way. You shed a lot of light behind the scenes, what Zenan does, what they can do, and both brew folks and everyday consumers will appreciate, I think, what you just educated us on. So thanks for going deep on all of it today, and wishing you and the whole Zenan team a great year ahead. It's been amazing to work with you, because you know what? We haven't worked together that long. We are now a Zenan, part of the Zenan family, and it's been a great experience. So thanks for coming on. We appreciate everything.
Awesome. Thank you.
And that's it. That's all, folks. Episode 62 with Dan Silva, the Glassman, co-owner and VP of Sales and Procurement with Zenan Glass, has moved from the mash tun to the fermenters. If you enjoyed our conversation or any other episodes, please leave a review or a comment wherever you get your podcasts. It genuinely helps more than you know. Today's episode is fueled by cans of Sunnyside Session IPA, big on the taste, low on the alcohol, a springtime, summertime, anytime treat, which you can now find all over Ontario at the beer store, LCBO, select grocery stores, convenience stores, and at both GLB retail stores. Cans are also online at greatlakesbeershop.ca for free local home delivery. You can visit the brewery at 30 Queen Elizabeth Boulevard in Etobicoke, or grab some delicious eats and fresh pours at our brew pub at 11 Lower Jarvis Street in Toronto. If you have any content you'd love to hear us discuss on this show, guest ideas, or just want to tell us what you're drinking, drop us a line at podcast@greatlakesbeer.com. Glassware recommendations too. Should we bring back, Dan? Should we bring back the Fresh GLB lacing contest?
Yeah, we should.
That was an amazing contest we used to do at Great Lakes. Until next time, please remember to keep tipping your glass of Fresh GLB in the right direction. Supporting local never tasted so good.